the November 19th, 2024 meeting of the Kingston Planning Board. It is now 6:45 p.m. I'd like to introduce the people at the table. To my left is Robert Gisolo, who's a planning board member, Peter Coffin, who's a planning board member, I'm Lynn Merrill, I'm the chair. Robin Carter is our land use administrator, Ellie Alessio is our select board rep, Pedro Avila is our town building and code inspector, and Glenn Greenwood is our town planner. We may also have two more people coming. We haven't heard from Ben. He didn't say he was not coming, and that would be Ben Romano, who would be a member, and Robin Duguay may or may not come, and she is our vice chair. She had a family situation this afternoon. So, in calling this to order, I'd like to tell everyone how the planning board meetings work. First of all, the applicant comes forward and they present their proposal. We ask questions, go back and forth as a board. When we have completed our, we ask for the, feedback from our town planner. We also have feedback in our file from all of the town departments, which we will read. Then we'll ask if there's any more discussion from the board. If there's no more discussion, then we invite the public to speak. When the public speaks, whenever anyone speaks, an applicant or the public, you need to please give us your name and where you're from, who you represent, and you have a chance to speak. When public comment is over, we close public comment, we go back to planning board discussion and begin our decision-making process. And that happens with each of the two applications we have tonight, and that is followed by a public hearing for a number of, I think there's 7, maybe 8 warrant articles that we're going to discuss tonight. So, that being said, our first applicant is Comac Properties, LLC. They're at 13 New Boston Road and Smallpox Road, map R19, lot 15, and it's in the C3 Aquifer zone. Welcome.
Good evening. Bill Powell with SEC and Associates.
You need to be by the microphone.
Is it a stand? I have one.
Well,
Oh, you have one? Yeah.
I mean, how does
Would you mind easily either side? Can you get them? Put it on that corner facing the camera. That corner facing the camera. There. Okay. Thank you.
So before you begin speaking, you do need to turn the green light on so that everyone in the room can hear you and everyone watching on YouTube can hear you as well.
Sure, yeah, I'll turn that one on over there just now.
Bill, if you'd give us the spelling of your last name, that would be helpful. Thank you.
It's Hall, H-A-L-L.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, as you have mentioned, what we have before you tonight is a proposal by Comac Properties, that's Comac Well and Pump, to subdivide this lot into 3 lots, utilizing the frontage that's at New Boston Road and Smallpox Road. So this property is identified as tax map R19, lot 15, and it contains approximately 11.7 acres, and it has 313.5 feet of frontage on the south side of New Boston Road, and a little more than 1,700 feet of frontage on the west and north sides of Smallpox Road. It's an existing lot of record that was established by a plan that's recorded in the registry by John Symes in February 1976, and it's located entirely within the commercial 3 zone. Abutting the subject parcel are commercial 3 lots that are located on New Boston Road to the north and northwest, and then the abutting lots on Smallpox Road are all shown for residential. Those are to the east, south, and southwest. The majority of the property is within the Aquifer Protection District, with only a small portion of the northwest corner of the property located outside south of the property, on the opposite side of Small Fox Road, is the Powwow River. The river and the portion of the wetland complex surrounding it is within a flood hazard zone. However, that does not encumber our property at all. But the shoreline protection zone from the edge of Powwow River does fall onto the property. We have applied for and received a shoreline permit for the driveway on lot, I believe it's lot E that we're proposing. And you can see that on sheet 7 of our plan set. The existing property, at least lots A and B that we're proposing, is mostly undeveloped and wooded throughout. There's a 170-foot wide Eversource power line easement that bisects this property, and there are wetlands located on site delineated by Timothy Fawerda. A buffer report has also been prepared to establish setbacks per the town of Kingston's wetlands ordinance, and we have 2 generous upland areas located on the site. They contain well-drained Canton soils on the northern side of the site, and then excessively well-drained Windsor soils on the southern side of the site. At the northerly end of the site, close to New Boston Road, is the existing Comac Pump and Well building. They're a well drilling contractor, and that business is supported by a 1-story, 6,100 square foot office and service building with its own individual on-site sewage disposal system and water supply. This commercial use was established by an approved site plan in July of 1994 and was constructed based on that site plan. So as I noted, the proposal is simply to subdivide this into 3 street frontage lots. So we'll have the existing lot R19-15 that will be to the north, and it'll have frontage off of New Boston Road. It'll contain approximately 4.81 acres and be supported by over 200 feet of frontage on New Boston Road, much as it is today. The 2 new lots are located to the south of the power line easement, and it would basically divide this in half, this property. Lot A is the westerly of the 2 new lots that would contain approximately 3.14 acres, and it's supported by 200 feet of frontage on Small Fox Road. Lot B is the easterly lot, and it will contain approximately 3.75 acres and is supported by much more than 200 feet of frontage along Small Fox Road. These lots would comply with the sizing requirements of the C3 zone, as well as the Aquifer Protection District lot requirements. Test pits were witnessed by Mike Cuomo and have been provided for all the lots, with 4,000 square foot receiving areas available for the lots. And this application also considers stormwater flow for lots A and B and provides several options to infiltrate that drainage on site. As noted, the entire site is within the C3 zone. However, the intention is to seek either a zoning change or a variance to convert lots A and B to a residential zone. Because what they'd like to do is build lots for their family there. So they just want to build 2 houses for family. And in addition to that, much of the surrounding properties on Small Fox Road are already zoned residential. So it just seems to make more sense to keep the commercial on New Boston Road where it is today and convert these 2 to residential. This also requires NHDES subdivision approval, which has been applied for. We have no known variances, and we have a handful of waivers that we're requesting, which we can discuss. And we intend to comply with all siting and sizing requirements. So with that, we do have a review letter from the town engineer, Dennis Quintel, which we could go over, or if you'd like to open it up to questions from the board.
Thank you. Let's start with Glenn.
Sure. So, I'm sorry, Mr. Hall, your first name is
Bill.
Bill? Yep. So Bill said a lot of what I said in the first paragraph, but I'm still gonna go through it because it just makes the presentation a little easier for me, and you know I'm getting older. So this is a proposal to subdivide an 11.7 acre parcel into 3 lots, utilizing the frontage at New Boston Road and Smallpox Road. This is the first public hearing for this proposal, so the board needs to consider a motion to invoke jurisdiction. The plan is complete from my perspective to support such an action by the board. The property is presently zoned commercial 3. For the purposes of this subdivision, the zoning designation has very little impact. From the perspective of the property owner and the abutters, the zoning designation has a great deal of impact. The property owners are going to ask the planning board to support a zoning change for the newly created lots that do not have existing structures to be rezoned as rural residential to allow the construction of homes. So that's what Bill just talked with you about. At the time that I wrote this review letter, they had asked for 3 waivers. The first is to reduce the engineering cost agreement from $5,000 to $3,000. The second is to forego the mandatory preliminary meeting, since this is just a 3-lot road frontage subdivision. And the third waiver request is to forego the preparation of a site-specific soils map, because they did do considerable soils work anyway. That was prepared by a licensed soil scientist, wetland scientist, I'm sorry. So I have no concern about any of the proposed waiver requests, but each should be voted upon separately by the planning board. And then the following are my comments upon reviewing the plan titled Subdivision Plan, Tax Map R19, Lot 15, 13 New Boston Road, Smallpox Road, Kingston, New Hampshire, prepared by SEC and Associates and dated October 3rd, 2024. A conditional use permit is required for this subdivision under the Aquifer Protection District. It's a rote enterprise basically on something like this, on a subdivision of less than 10 lots and not being commercial in nature at this point. So, but that's something the board does have to do. An NHDES shoreline permit by notification, which is the easiest way to get shoreline approval from the state, is part of the application. And so although it's a really simple permit, it should be listed under the permits on the plan. Here's the rub for the discussion that the board's going to have tonight, is my comment number 3. I don't believe that this proposal meets the standard found in the subdivision regulations in section 905.6. In this section, wetland buffer areas cannot be included in the calculation of the 60,000 square feet of contiguous upland area. When this area is removed, I don't believe the standard lot size is achieved. And I did speak with Charlie about that last week, and he has submitted a 4th waiver request that asks that the board consider not invoking that particular subdivision regulation. So that's what the board, that's one of the things the board definitely needs to discover and talk about this evening. And then I asked, will the town be requesting the roadside easements for maintenance that they often require? And I see that in the packet, there has been a request by Public Works for those maintenance easements. So that would be something that would be needed to have reflected on any final Mylar, if that was so chosen to follow by the planning board. And I do want to say about the rezoning proposal, the properties on Smallpox are definitely residential. And if this went through as a commercial subdivision and stayed commercial, I would imagine that there would be a lot of concern by the people living on the other side of Smallpox that there were going to be commercial endeavors on Smallpox, because it is a residential road. But there are 2 ways for that zoning activity to happen. We are in the citizens petition period, and so the applicants could get 25 signatures on a citizen petition to rezone that, or the board could consider doing that as a board action. In either instance, there's at least 1 public hearing required, and there is time still, although we're pressing those boundaries as we always do on zoning with the January deadlines that we have. So those are the issues I want to make the board aware of about this.
I only have one question, Glenn. I noticed that
I only have one question, Glenn. I noticed that the 150 woodland buffer line is here, and the 250 shoreline setback line for the state is here. Does it also need to have the 300-foot line for Kingston there?
It could be added, yes.
Just asking if it needs to be or not.
Yeah, I mean, that 300-foot distance is our actual buffer distance. It's I'm sorry, not our buffer distance, it's our district distance.
District, correct.
So it will show that a portion of the land falls within the district, but it isn't our buffer requirement. Our buffer requirement and our restriction on what can happen on the property happens within the first 150 feet, which does not fall on this property.
Correct.
But for the sake of including those districts, including the Shoreline Protection District in the zoning list that they have on the cover page is a legitimate request.
Just wondering. I just noticed it wasn't there. Wasn't sure. Okay. Comments from the board? Questions from the board?
So I guess I just have a procedural question. If we can't consider the zoning tonight, void of another public hearing and/or a citizen's petition, do we move forward with the other discussion? Okay.
We can move forward with it as C3.
It can be a C3 subdivision. When the plan set came in originally, it had 2 houses located on the property, and I asked that those be removed, because we couldn't, in good faith, I don't think, review a subdivision plan with houses on it in the commercial district that doesn't allow new houses.
Okay.
But we can do it, you can subdivide land in the commercial district without doing a attendant site plan review if that isn't part of your proposal. So really all we needed to have done was to have those houses removed, and they did that for us. So that we had plans we could post that didn't have the houses on them. And you can certainly do a commercial subdivision without knowing what the future might hold as far as commercial use.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none. Do we have a motion to accept jurisdiction?
So move.
Second?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Didn't realize Dennis was here. I haven't too. I missed Dennis's comments, excuse me. Oh, yeah. Dennis's. Oh, at the end, okay. So Dennis's comments are, dear members of the planning board, at your request, I have conducted an engineering review of the above referenced application. I have based this review on the following document received by mail on 10/7/2024 and picked up on 11/12/24. It's a 9-sheet plan set, subdivision plan, tax map R19, lot 15, applicant Comac Properties, LLC, by SEC and Associates, Inc., dated 10/3/24. Subdivision application, intent, waivers, state shoreline permit by notification form and checklist. Wetlands buffer report by Timothy Verwerda, dated April 5th, 2024. Town driveway permit and copy of the deed. I offer the following comments. I have no objection to the waivers submitted. Article 905.6.a, each lot requires 60,000 square feet of buildable area that does not include wetland setback area. These proposed lots do not seem to meet that requirement. Number 3, Article 905.6.e, each driveway to the proposed lots shall be within 3,000 feet of a hydrant along approved roads. Provide dimension from the driveways to the nearest hydrant. Article 905.14.c.10 should add that the state shoreline permit be listed on sheet 1. Number 5, I have no objection with the wetland buffer report. I know that the driveway parking for the existing Comac building is as close as 25 feet from the wetlands that require a 100-foot buffer. Perhaps stormwater treatment should be provided at this time in the area where the driveway parking has been built within 100 feet of the wetlands. Article number 6, Article 905.14.c.35. After board approval, each new lot must have tax map designation. Number 7, sheet 7 shows the proposed driveway locations for the new lots. I would recommend that the taper and extra paper for the mailbox be shown on this sheet to match the detail on sheet 8. Number 8, I would recommend that a driveway stone construction entrance detail added and be required during the construction phase of each lot development to minimize tracking sediment onto the town pavement. Number 9, Article 905.14.h, establish performance bond if needed. Number 10, Article 905.14.I.1.e, certificate of monumentation is required. Feedback from the departments are as follows. From Public Works, maintain the right-of-way drainage in accordance with town specs. From Police, no comment. That's it. So, any further questions from that? Seeing none, do we have a motion on the floor to accept jurisdiction?
I second it.
Any discussion as far as accepting jurisdiction? All those in favor?
Aye.
That would be unanimous. Okay. We're going to look at the waivers. The first waiver request is dear members of the board, please accept this letter as a formal request to waive subdivision review regulation, Article 905.14A2D, subdivision fee Schedule A, requiring the establishment of a $5,000 engineering review account, and to accept a $3,000 engineering review account instead. This is an application for a subdivision proposal. The proposal is to subdivide one parcel of land into 3 lots, utilizing the existing frontage on New Boston and Smallpox Road. There are no new proposed roadways, and one of the lots already supports an existing commercial building. As such, any engineering review would be minimal. Do we have a motion? The waiver request,
Page 4 of the
page
packet.
4 of the packet. So they're asking to change the required $5,000 engineering fee to $3,000.
Yeah, I would have to ask Glenn for his opinion on that, because Dennis isn't here to say, and I think that's,
It's 6 of one, half dozen of another. If
you
we
can always
don't-
ask for more.
If we charge more than $50,000 for our reviews, they're gonna have to, they have to submit more money.
And Dennis said he was okay with the 3 waivers that you
Oh, that's
saw.
right, he had no objection, so I'll move.
I have none, because although it sounded in my discussion like there are a lot of issues with this.
Right,
There aren't really a lot of issues with this, they're just really interesting issues.
Okay, so we don't charge for interesting.
Okay, motion from
Motion,
Peter,
yeah.
second by Ally. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Waiver number 2, dear members of the board, please accept this letter as a formal request to waive the subdivision review regulation, Article 905.4A, requiring a mandatory preliminary review. This is an application for a subdivision proposal. The proposal is to subdivide one parcel of land into 3 lots, utilizing the existing frontage on New Boston Road and Smallpox Road. There are no new proposed roadways, and one of the lots already supports an existing commercial building. This proposal is intended to comply with all applicable zoning and subdivision regulations. Do you have a motion on that one?
Again, Glenn's comment?
It's very common for us not to do a preliminary on, if it's not
Existing.
innovative, I mean, a conservation plan subdivision, or a subdivision that includes a road.
Right.
It's really common for us not to have that kind of thing.
And Dennis had no objection.
Just
We had,
one question with regards to that is, so that the proposal is to have access through New Boston Road
no,
here? No. Okay, so it's gonna be use Smallpox.
Right.
So, I got a question. How is this affecting the aquifer protection? If we don't do the preliminary
Oh,
subdivision?
Not at all. I mean, The one way that the Aquifer Protection District affects this subdivision, well,
Size of lot.
the two ways. One is that the mandatory lot size has to be 3 acres, which they comply with. They're
Yep.
proposing that these lots all be 3 acres or larger. And then the second is that a conditional use permit is required under the Aquifer Protection for a use if it's allowed in zoning, and then falls under one of the 3 things in the conditional use permit, you have to do that. Other than that, the Aquifer Protection District doesn't really play a part in this.
Okay, does that have a play in the sense that this is a C3 zone now? No?
What we usually use the mandatory preliminary reviews for is for like really large commercial endeavors, like we had a mandatory preliminary meeting with 266-125, the big warehouse. We typically have them, like the proposal we had for, I think they call themselves Liberty Commons, that was gonna be 255 housing unit development. We had them for those. If it's a frontage subdivision that isn't creating a new road, we often provide this waiver. Because there just isn't much information exchange that's necessary for what's going on.
And without any plans showing an increase in coverage of impermeable coverage area, and knowing that these other 2 lots are gonna be,
Yeah,
probably.
they've provided the impervious coverage estimates for
Right.
pre and post development, and if they're successful in going down the route of residential as opposed to commercial, that impervious coverage is way smaller. Way smaller.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve the request to waive the subdivision review regulation, Article 905.4.
Second that.
any further discussion from the board? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. We did have one other comment that came in by text that just came in, and it's from Conservation. Oh, that's the email, sorry. Conservation's comments to the planning board, a large portion of these 2 lots falls within the shoreline buffer zones. For at least one of the lots, the proposed driveway would pass through the 300-foot shoreline buffer zone, which we already knew, so we're good with that.
however, that is allowed, driveways
Oh,
are allowed to pass through, it specifically mentions driveways in that shoreline protection.
Absolutely.
Okay, the third waiver request is for the site-specific soils map. Dear members of the board, please accept this letter as a formal request to waive subdivision review regulation, Article 905.14C19, requiring a site-specific soils map. The existing parcel of land is an 11.7 acre lot with 2 large contiguous upland areas on either end of the site. The SCS soils map and the test pit results reveal that the northern end of the site is comprised of well-drained Canton, in parentheses 42B, soils, and the southerly end of the site is comprised of excessively well-drained Windsor 26B soils, both supportive of the proposed subdivision. Whereas the lot is within the Aquifer Protection District, 3 acre lot sizing is mandatory. This lot requirement exceeds any soil type that would require additional consideration for the ability of the soil to support the proposed use. Dennis didn't have any issues with that one either. Comments from the board? Okay, we have a motion from Ellie to approve the waiver. Yeah.
Well, we know this is gonna be a housing, a residential.
Well, we don't know that,
Well,
because it hasn't been voted by
We
the
know
town.
that's
we know that now, I mean,
We
we
know that's
gotta make
what
the
their
assumption that
desire
that's what's
is.
gonna happen.
We know that's what they want to do, but it's not been voted in by the town, and therefore we don't know that that's going to happen.
I understand that, and I think we might be giving up something if we don't, if it doesn't happen, or if it does happen, then we're giving up some I should say, some ability to find out if they can put septic systems here in a good spot and meet the requirements for 100-foot wells and all that sort of stuff.
No, not at all, not at all. Because They have prepared a soils report for the site, which delineates the extent of wetlands,
Yeah,
lets us know exactly where the wetlands are. It describes the functional valuations of the wetlands and establishes, according to our ordinances, what the wetland setback would be. So it gives all the information that we need from a developability side to understand whether or not wetlands are going to have a negative impact on the developability of the property. So the information that we would get from site-specific mapping doesn't provide us more information for what we need to understand how the wetlands will impact the site as they're being proposed.
so let's play this out. If they decide to, and they get granted that they can make residential lots from this, are they gonna have to go in front of the ZBA now then to get, where they're gonna put the septic systems and meet the requirements for pervious land and all that sort of stuff, right? Are we creating the avenue to go to the ZBA to get relief from that?
If they're successful in the zoning change, they wouldn't have to go to the ZBA at all.
Okay.
Because there's enough upland soil and enough separation from wetlands to meet all of our building constraints as far as location of septics and wells.
Is it okay to say, Glenn, also that upon subdivision and proper review from our deputy health inspector, if there is any requirements that will imply the need of a waiver, it can be granted then by said official at the point of review?
Right, if that was necessary.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept the waiver. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay. So the fourth waiver we received today, and therefore Dennis has not reviewed it. It is, dear members of the board, please accept this letter as a formal request to waive subdivision review regulation article 905.6.a relating to the buildable area requirement of 60,000 square feet of contiguous upland soils for proposed lots. This is a subdivision regulation noting that the buildable area cannot include areas within property and wetland setbacks. That by its definition conflicts with the town's minimum lot area requirement, meaning that the town's minimum lot area requirement of 80,000 square feet less the area within the 20-foot setback, front, side, and rear setbacks would only leave 57,600 square feet for lots with a 30-foot front setback in an area of 56,000 square feet. That's kind of interesting. The existing parcel of land is an 11.7 acre lot with two large contiguous upland areas on either side of the site. The lot is within the Aquifer Protection District, and 3-acre lot sizing is mandatory. Proposed lot R-19-15, supporting the existing commercial business, contains 61,567 square feet of contiguous upland soil exclusive of property and wetland setbacks. Proposed lots A and B contain 18,257 square feet and 10,547 square feet respectively of contiguous upland soil exclusive of property and wetland setbacks and are the subject of this waiver request. As noted, the two proposed lots are ultimately intended for residential use. Typical residential footprints include house, septic system, and parking area with grading, require approximately 6,000 to 7,000 square feet. Both of these lots contain more than the typical area noted and are supported by excessively well-drained soils that would require less septic system area and grading than would be required by a typical residential footprint. In review of two previously approved residential subdivisions, one on Mill Road and one on Exeter Road, where 6 lots were approved with less than the 60,000 square feet of contiguous upland and soil area exclusive of property and wetland setbacks, all were designed, constructed, and remained fully compliant with all siting and setback requirements. In all, the area provided for lots A and B are more than adequate for their intended use. Go ahead.
Okay. This section of our subdivision regulations has a storied past. We have one lawsuits where this was the single issue, either allowing or preventing a subdivision. The subdivision of an additional lot of land, actually making one existing lot in the Jericho Road neighborhood into 2 lots, was asked for twice over the time period of about 8 years. Both times ended up in court. Both times the court supported our requirement of this standard. But there have been numerous instances where we have waived this standard in the past. We did it at the Solar Hills subdivision. There's another one we did it on that's escaping me right now. So it's been a site-specific kind of discussion when this waiver has been requested, and I'm torn. I've never asked the board to amend that regulation because I think that it served us well in that Jericho Road instance, but I have supported its waiver before. So, and I'm not arguing the waiver here. I'm happier with the one lot that has almost 20,000 square feet of space. That's a huge amount of upland land, you know, associated with a single family residential lot. The 10,000 one, it's clear that many house lots that were created before the town accepted zoning are that size or smaller. So there's scientific support that a house lot can be created on within the parameters of that much upland soil. And so my parting shot is that's the discussion the planning board needs to have.
If I remember correctly, the Jericho instance had a lot of other factors
Well,
to that as well.
beyond setbacks, it had steep slope issues. And steep slopes are also a factor that get removed from the contiguous upland soil calculation.
And there was also instances where there were issues with the wetlands themselves, perhaps having been reduced.
Yeah,
There were a lot of things.
There was a section where
the wetland issues I tend to look at similarly, no matter what the underlying issues are. A wetland is a wetland, and we require buffers, and this particular regulation says you can't use that buffer. I'll remind you, the state of New Hampshire doesn't believe in buffers for wetlands. That's a completely local decision. For the state of New Hampshire, the wetland resource ends at the wetland. But we have, and not just Kingston, tons of communities have instituted wetland protection ordinances that establish buffers, and so we have done that. And we have the reports from a licensed wetland scientist that tells us what those buffers should be on these 2 lots according to the functional values that the wetlands perform on site. Now, unfortunately, for the applicant, those wetlands perform a lot of functions, and the buffer ends up being 100 feet. Well, 100 feet of a wetland buffer is a lot of land not being able to be used for development. And so out of these 3-acre lots, what you're seeing is, out of 130,000 square feet, roughly, you're talking about either 17,000 square feet of contiguous upland soil or 11,000 square feet of contiguous upland soil when you remove the wetland impact. So it's significant. But the town did vote to do that. We've always been very protective of our wetland resources. Charlie makes great arguments on his behalf. My argument is the town has wetland ordinances for a reason, and those buffers are those that have been established by our ordinance.
I think it would be different if we didn't have that fairly extensive chart, you know, with the point values for the different wetlands, and soil scientists weigh in, and unless the applicant is willing to come in with contradictory, you know, go through a hydrogeologic survey and whatever else that says that this really isn't a good value, but you're talking about a big difference between.
The last thing I'll say, and again, you should be arguing these points, I should shut up. Beyond that, the development that they're proposing doesn't ask to go closer to the wetlands than what we provide for them. They're not asking for any development within the wetland buffer areas. They're simply saying, you don't let us calculate, you don't let us include that large amount of land in your calculation of that 60,000 square feet. You're saying you can't do anything with it, and we're actually saying we won't do anything with it.
Oh, I see.
But you're saying we can't use that calculation.
I see. It's not a question of breaking the it's not breaking the buffers.
That 60,000 contiguous square feet of land exists on the lots. We just say because it's in the wetland buffer, you can't use it for the calculation. So it does seem kind of like a double tax.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now.
They're not asking.
I thought that some of this buildable area was going to be impacted.
They're not asking to do anything within the wetland buffers. Correct? I mean.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the point that I was gonna say. I think with the exception of there's a small wetland that's isolated pocket across Smallpox Road to the south, we're probably within the 100-foot buffer for that, but it's because we have to access on Smallpox Road. But from the plans that we provided, we've shown that we can fit our 4,000 square foot receiving area and have a developable house box, or, well, building box, whatever ends up happening here. We have the area to support that development on this site, and especially because this is, looking at the topography on this, it's a fairly flat site. Where we have this buildable area is like 0 to 5% slopes, pretty flat.
Mm-hmm.
And where it's all sandy soils, that makes the construction so much easier because your 4,000 square foot receiving area is probably only going to be about 800 square feet per septic. It's not going to be that 4,000 square foot area. If you had a site that had more glacial till soils that were going to require a larger leaching field and maybe some larger stormwater on the site, then that might be a consideration, but we're showing that we can fit all of this outside of that 100-foot buffer. And as Glenn said, we do have greater than the 60,000 square foot contiguous uplands, but this regulation doesn't allow us to use the uplands that are located within the wetland buffer.
Yeah. Yeah, you had brought up Jericho. That was a lot smaller lot.
And a lot, and more factors.
Yeah, more factors. One of the factors, as I remember from the site visit, was the wetlands. Very close to the road on one part, and run the septic through the wetlands to get to the other upland area, which was near the lot on the western end. It was a matter where you'd be disturbing actual wetlands, not just the buffer, but and you couldn't get there from here. You couldn't get to the back lot without crossing wetlands on that lot. So that was quite a significant request that they were making there. This one I can see where it's a bit like what happened up at the seminary building, where they needed more land upland, even though the septic wasn't gonna go across the street, they needed to buy more land, yeah. I don't know,
I think the thing that was interesting to me was saying that with an 80,000 square foot minimum size of the lot, take 20 feet setback from all four sides, you don't meet the 60,000 square foot regulation, which means that you can't build on most of our 2-acre lots. That was an interesting calculation I saw here.
Still a far cry though from 60,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, I'd be happy to make a motion to approve the waiver.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, do we have any further discussion?
I'm just concerned, I know we don't set precedents because we've gone both ways, I'm just concerned that, you know, if we have these regulations and
My counsel would be, if the board is considering this waiver, to make it very clear that the reason you're doing that is because so much of the required 60,000 is eaten up by a wetland buffer that isn't going
Not
to
wetland.
be intruded upon.
yeah.
Right.
I would,
You know, so that explains why you're not disregarding the language of the ordinance, I mean, of the regulation.
we're evaluating it.
Just willy-nilly, you're doing it on the basis of this application.
Yeah, and you could almost put that as a condition of the waiver, is that the buffers won't be built upon.
Right.
I would support
Well, they won't be
that,
built on anyway, because they can't be.
You can't.
built on.
They can't do it, they can't do it.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
No, wait,
Oh,
wait.
Wait a minute, Ben's got a question.
Did we modify the request? Okay, so
Yeah, so I just want to go back to what Dennis says here, seeing that he wasn't part of this waiver. Should we be concerned about item 5 that he has in here? Provide this time of area, perhaps the stormwater treatment should be provided at this point?
oh, that's on the Comac lot,
That's on the,
which isn't affected by this waiver, so
Right.
I think we should treat that separately.
and you can, and this is where Dennis and I, we don't disagree a lot, but this is the kind of thing we, hands on occasion. What he's saying is that under the auspices of this subdivision application, we're going to look at the conditions of an existing site plan that has its approval and is constructed to its approval, and saying we're reconsidering that existing construction to provide additional stormwater protection, although I don't think we have any information that says the wetland has been impacted negatively by the existing driveway configuration.
Yeah, I think what he's saying is that by creating a new lot, which we are doing, that we should make an effort to apply the current standards to that lot by getting them to infiltrate the waters near the wetlands. We wouldn't
But they're all
permit,
existing conditions.
right. But yeah, it
If
gives us
this-
the opportunity to
if
try to
Comac
improve.
Pump was coming in for an amended site plan and they wanted to increase their parking area, then by all means, I say you have every right to make them meet today's criteria. But nothing on the Comac site is being proposed as a change except for the
Reduction
location
of
of the
the,
property.
and reduction of 2/3 of the land area.
Okay.
Well, what does that 2/3 of the land provide to constitute,
More, it's just
I mean,
coverage area.
it was approved as a site plan, and we had stormwater management requirements when it was approved as a site plan. And we have no evidence that there's an issue.
Okay.
That's my,
Or,
that's,
actually, but we shouldn't be discussing this under the proposed waiver, because it's not,
Correct.
that's
It's not part of
not,
the
so I would
proposed
say,
waiver,
just say drop it right now, because it's not relevant to this,
it
the
is
motion.
not part of
and-
the waiver discussion. It would be part
So
of
we
the
have a
overall
motion on the
subdivision.
floor.
Yeah.
We have a second. Is there any further discussion with anything different? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. 5 with one abstention. Anything else from the board? Seeing not, we ready to open for public comment? Is there anyone in the public that would like to make comments on this? If you do, you just need to come forward. Again, give us your name and where you live. Making sure that the microphone is looking green. You need to pick up a microphone.
Yeah. This is our opportunity to ask questions. They're just saying that we have to state our name and ask a question. Do you want to ask?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to
The green light's on, so you go ahead and talk.
talk through the microphone.
No, you can't hold it.
just
You
put
need
it on the
to, you need to sit in the chair and put that on the table and talk.
I prefer not to sit in a rolling chair, thank you.
It's got to be on the table, though. It has to be on the table.
Yeah, we can bring up one of the other chairs. Make sure you're comfortable.
Okay, he's been scoot on you,
That's all right, I prefer to stand, it's no problem.
Just make sure you talk towards the box.
Yep, okay. Well, we're Patrick Marcoux, Lucinda Marcoux, we're residents on Smallpox Road in Butters. And we got a mailing that showed us the overall lot plan, and that was a proposal to divide it into 3 lots. So there wasn't much more in that mailing that indicated residential or commercial, or where the lots in fact were going to be divided. There was no layout on that that showed other than the total parcel. So, pardon me because I'm hearing impaired. This is a little bit of a bandbox for me to listen in, but I wasn't able to grasp what the proposal actually is. Is it to divide the lot into 3 lots that would be the existing Comac business and then 2 residential lots? Or is it for commercial lots?
At this point in time, it's just to subdivide this big lot into this lot and these 2 small lots. The question of residential has not been heard yet, and they'll have to be going in front of zoning to get that changed, because currently these are commercial lots. From what we've heard, the intent is to put a house here, with driveways coming in, small box and small box. Okay?
So this lot is currently.
That's nothing to do with
Right,
this subdivision.
right. So this would still stay Comac, is what you're
Correct.
saying, and then the 2 lots would be here. Quote, and that's what I couldn't understand, was whether you were saying theoretically it still could be residential at some point, or it could be commercial at some point.
It is commercial at this point,
Right.
but from what they've said, the intent is to move forward with zoning to get the change into a residential lots, so they can put a house here and a house here.
To change it to residential, they have to do a warrant article that's voted on by the town, at town meeting.
But I thought earlier, I was trying to catch as much as I could, that it didn't require another board meeting or whatnot to change it to the residential, that there was already the plan in place and all of that. I didn't understand.
It does require that, it would require that they do either a petition warrant article, or the board would put forward a warrant article to change those 2 lots to residential. It would be voted on by the town at town meeting. Then At that point, they could build on those lots as residential, they would not have to come back for a public hearing. If for some reason that's not the case, then they're gonna remain commercial.
So they would still be subdivided, but
Yeah,
remain as commercial.
Correct.
So at some point, there could be another couple businesses there.
yeah, correct.
That's what we needed to know.
Yeah. But that's not to be decided at this meeting,
No, it's.
just the
That's what she
subdivision itself.
It must be voted on by the town to change the zoning for those articles, to change them from commercial C3 into rural residential. It cannot be done by any board in town, it must be done by the townspeople.
All we're doing tonight is change that into 3 commercial lots. That's all that's happening.
Okay, well, that would be, like my husband, I couldn't hear half of what was going on. I was like,
This room is a
I
challenge.
could not understand it. Okay, so that makes much more sense at this point.
And the plan is for their children to build houses on those lots.
It's,
Right.
okay, all right. Well, that's fine. And I think I heard most of the aspect about the wetlands. Obviously, that's the biggest impact we don't want. And I heard you say the buffer was there, they're not gonna encroach on the buffer that's already existing. And it, I mean, our land is the land across the street, so there's nothing that's going to impact that piece of property that's right, obviously, where our property begins, right where that road is. And I know there's been, surveying and all of that. Is that just in regards to the wetland type of thing?
They had to do all these calculations with the surveyor out there to do
Okay.
the markings.
Okay.
This is the wetlands here.
All the plans that you're seeing there tonight are online on the planning board page, at the very top of the planning board page.
Okay. It makes it much clearer for me now that I can see it. And exactly, because I kept hearing residential, commercial. I think I got it now. Okay. Did you have any other questions?
Nope. I'm assuming that it's all, I saw surveyors out there all summer now and again. I'm assuming it's all been perk tested and such.
Yes.
That those 2 areas in question, from what I visualize, they could support single-family homes for perk tests and walls. I don't think they could support anything more aggressive than that. There's a pretty high water table there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comments? Seeing none, I will close public comment.
Madam Chair, that I think brings up a good question, and that is, do our abutter notification letters actually mention that there are going to be plans available online? Because I thought they did say that. If not, we should make sure that that's included.
I believe they do.
Good.
Okay. So what is the will of the board? Are we ready to move forward?
I've got a question about the whole residential issue. I certainly agree with those lots becoming residential and would support that wholeheartedly. My question is, if that warrant article fails and they stay as commercial with residential use prohibited, that neighborhood along Smallpox is really a residential neighborhood, and I didn't know if that was something we could put in as a condition of subdivision approval, or not.
No, I think that's over-regulation.
We
approve the subdivision, done.
or not, yeah.
Exactly, and I think
there's no
we
reason
go
not.
forward, approve the subdivision. Now, we don't know what the voters are gonna do. We cannot anticipate it, and I don't think we should go any further than that at this point in time.
Right.
If we as a board decide we'd like to support them by putting in a request to change those 2, that's one thing. But I would
Well, actually, the
welcome-
planning board will have an opportunity to vote on even a petition warrant article to support it, so that would be
That's
an
correct.
opportunity
That
to
is
do
correct.
that.
It might be good to give direction. I mean, if the board doesn't feel like this is something that should come from the board, we should tell them that, because the citizens petition period.
Yeah, it's
is
coming up.
It's not, well, it's already started. It
Yeah.
started, I think, last Wednesday, so it only runs through the second Wednesday in December. So if in fact we're going to put the onus on the applicant to do that citizens petition, we should tell them.
Yeah.
Because they have plenty of time to do it, but the holiday season makes everything much shorter.
Hard,
And we'll have, Thanksgiving will be next week, and they wouldn't get much done probably in that week, and then they only have 1 week left. So we should guide them. I personally don't think it's a huge stretch for the planning board to say they're willing to do this, but that's a planning board discussion, not a planner discussion.
So do we need a motion on the floor to approve the request? I so move that.
With certain contingencies, according to Dennis's letter. So we need to make certain that the dimension from the driveways to the nearest hydrant is on the plans, that
Okay.
the state building permit be listed on the plans.
Okay?
And the 300-foot
300
shoreland protection
Be indicated on the plan.
be indicated in the plans?
Looking to see if there's anything else.
I don't think that there's the necessity for a performance bond here,
No?
but the certificate of monumentation should be a
Yeah.
condition.
Yep, certificate of, also the roadside easements. And, he said he recommended a driveway stone construction entrance detail be added during the construction phase. So
Protect the
that's-
asphalt, yeah, and the driveway profile showing the mailbox addition.
Yep,
Yes, and are you, I'm listening to this and I'm understanding that what you're doing is coming up with a conditional approval list, except you have to approve a conditional use permit under the Aquifer Protection Ordinance
Oh, right.
first,
Yeah.
before you think about doing any other kind of approval.
okay, you're absolutely right, thank you. So,
And it's a really odd conditional use permit
for aquifer protection, correct?
action, yeah. It's,
201-1.
yeah. And so the language is in 201G, conditional uses. And it says, the following uses, if allowed in the underlying zoning district, are permitted only after a conditional use permit is granted by the Kingston Planning Board. And that says, number one is, industrial and commercial uses not otherwise prohibited in the section 201.4 of this article. And so we have no proposal before us, but we know that they are being subdivided as commercial lots. So, what we've done in the past is just go through A through E, acknowledging that it's a commercial, it would be a commercially zoned plot of land, but there is no use coming forward.
Right, so that would be when, if it was developed as commercial lots, they could only come with uses that were permitted
In the permitted section of the ordinance.
of the ordinance, right?
Yes.
So,
In relation to a site plan review, they'd have to have approved by the planning board.
Which
Right.
would be a condition of the conditional use permit, right? Okay.
I mean, I may be overinterpreting this. You could reasonably respond to me and say, without a direct use, commercial use known, we don't feel comfortable answering these questions.
I'm just looking at the questions. Yeah.
Can we defer until
You
the
could,
next step of this?
you could.
Yeah, I
And if
think,
you were on
I feel
record
better
doing
with
that, I would be completely comfortable with your decision
because I'm just thinking long-term, so let's say this doesn't pass
as
as
residential.
residential, and then there are plans before it. I just would rather wait until we know what the use is.
Until we see the
gonna be on
plans.
sites.
And they would have to get this conditional use permit at that time.
Correct.
If someone made a motion that just said that you were deferring it for that reason because we don't have a commercial use being offered, I think that's perfectly acceptable.
But we still can subdivide, approve the subdivision.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So do we have a motion?
So-
to that effect
I'll
for
make
the
a motion to
conditional use?
defer the decision on the conditional use permit until a proposed use is resolved and/or a new plan
Presented.
set comes before the board.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay. And now we're back to the original.
Thank you.
With these items from Dennis, which were dimensions from the driveways to the nearest hydrant, add the state shoreline permit, which will be listed on sheet 1, recommend a driveway stone construction entrance detail be provided, certificate of monumentation, mailbox addition, and roadside easements. Was there anything else?
Add the shoreland protection district
Oh,
in the zoning
yeah, in the
designation
zoning.
list.
Correct. Okay. That's your motion?
Yes.
Okay, make sure.
She just read them.
Just wanna make sure.
Okay, it's number 3, 4, 8, and 10 of Dennis's comments,
Plus the,
plus the mailbox addition to the driveway plan, and
plus
the roadside easements,
roadside easements.
and the
300-foot shoreline.
300-foot shoreline.
And what was the other one?
And adding the shoreline protection district in the list of zoning designations on the cover
Yep.
page.
So moved.
There we go.
And receive the subdivision approval from the state.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay.
Oh, you have that one?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
So what is this then? That's just the
You've
DES?
already got the state subdivision?
Yeah, it's right here, yeah.
Very good. Then
I
we'll
was
just
gonna
we'll
say-
fill that in on the cover page,
Yep.
Yeah.
which right now is empty.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Right.
Thank you.
Oh, did you guide them that they should do a citizen's petition?
Not yet.
Okay.
So
guided.
So guided.
Make sure they're registered voters.
No, we already did.
We're limited on our warrant articles.
Yeah. So, if they wish to change the zoning from commercial to residential, they will need to do a citizen's petition, warrant article, to do that. And they have until December, so the second Wednesday?
I think it's the second Wednesday
December 11th, to submit that
to the Board of Selectmen.
to the
Board
Board
of
of
Selectmen, yeah.
Okay?
You can get more than 25 signatures.
Yeah.
Because they check and
They
a lot
do
of
check.
people think they're registered and they're not. And
Oh, it's not registered. Oh, I see, yeah, registered vote,
They have
yes.
to be registered.
they have
Oh,
to be
yeah.
registered voters.
But we had 440 registered new voters at election day, so
Yeah,
It did.
we did, it was unbelievable.
That's wonderful.
but we also have a lot of people who come up to check in, and, they give you their name, and, so, so, yeah, I'm registered. You got purged somehow.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay. One wonder?
Oh, are you kidding me? That is very funny. Yep. That is
Now,
very
that was very clever.
Okay, and we are here for our second hearing of the evening. And this would be Benevento. Bituminous. I'm sorry, it's not a word I commonly use,
No, it's just another way to say asphalt.
but that's not part of their name. Products LLC. of the property owners, the Bremen Trust, which is Galloway, 1 Redstone Drive, map R3 lot 18. It's in the Rural Residential Aquifer District. And this is a proposal to amend the existing site plan to add an enclosure over an existing recycled asphalt stockpile bin and to remove an existing concrete pad. I'm getting too close to Christmas thinking of flags. Okay.
Once again, for the record, Bill Hall with SCC and Associates, and with me is the applicant as well as their attorney for this. This is hopefully going to be much simpler than the last one. So what this is an existing site that's on Roadstone Drive, and it's part of a larger site. What we got before you here is just a 6.4 acre lease area that is leased by Benevento Bituminous. They're leasing that from a much larger parcel that's owned by the Bremen Trust, John and Brenda Galloway. That whole lease area is about 60 acres in size. There's about 38 acres of it in Kingston and about 22 in Plastow. So this entire lease area is an industrial and commercial use. It's an existing asphalt plant. And all we're looking to do here is on the western side of the property, you'll note that there's an existing concrete pad that's to be removed. It's a little more than 500 square feet. And then to the south, close to Roadstone Drive, you'll see that there's a recycled asphalt stockpile. And what we're proposing is a 45-foot wide by 65-foot long asphalt enclosure. This is going to be an arched structure. It's going to have walls on either side of it, to the northern and southern sides, to support that structure. It's going to be covered with a heavy-duty fabric, and you'll be able to drive through it pretty much. It's going to be a stockpile accessed on either end. That's all we're looking to do with this. Is just cover this existing asphalt stockpile. So with that, I can open it up to any questions the board might have.
All right. Glenn?
Sure. So I have that this is a proposal to amend the existing site plan to add an enclosure over an existing recycled asphalt stockpile bin and to remove an existing concrete pad. This is a very minor amendment to the existing site plan in which an existing exposed pile of recycled asphalt is proposed to be covered by a 45 by 65-foot concrete wall structure with a heavy-duty fabric cover over a steel frame. In addition, a concrete pad of 325 square feet will be removed. And there's a discussion I want to have after this hearing about this process. And so I don't really know why I just said that, other than I need to remind myself to have that discussion with you, and we have people in the audience we should talk to before we have that discussion. So, this is the first public hearing for this. We need to do a motion to invoke jurisdiction. I think they've provided more than enough information to support that motion. The applicant is requesting 3 waivers from the board. One to the Town of Kingston Article 904.4 of the site plan regulations, review regulations, to forego a mandatory preliminary review. One to Article 405B and the site plan fee schedule to allow an escrow of $3,000 instead of $5,000. You see a trend here, folks? Mm-hmm. And finally, a waiver to Town of Kingston 904.5 sections 8, 23, and 31 to forego creation of a topographic plan, an existing natural features plan, and an existing and proposed contour plan. The planning board should vote on each of these waiver requests individually. I have absolutely not one concern about any of those waiver requests. And I say that the following are my comments, and then I tell you my comment is I have no concerns or comments, so. And the reason they're doing this is because they couldn't do an expedited site review because they've already done 2 on this property.
Answered my question.
And the discussion I want to pose to the board is maybe we remove that 2 limitation. Because we always talk as a board whether we're going to let someone do an expedited review, and
If we think it's been too long since they've done a site plan, we can simply tell them they can't do an expedited review. But to just say that only two can happen is kind of restrictive on a property that has a ton of things going on and might need to do these kind of adjustments that they've done over the last 3 or 4 years. This was expensive for them to do for something that we don't care about. It means nothing to this board that they're protecting a stockpile on their property.
The purpose of the two is, I mean, the purpose of having expedited site review is for us to determine if it's such a minor. The number two is irrelevant to whether they qualify to have an expedited site review. But we're arguing about something we should be talking about afterwards, but I'm just pointing out.
But that's why they're here. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had to notify abutters and do all sorts of this stuff that is really not necessary. But that's editorial, sorry.
Okay,
So,
got the message.
We have Dennis's comments. At your request, I have conducted an engineering review of the above referenced application. That's based on by email on June 29, 2024. One sheet plan set, amended site plan, tax map R-3 lot 18, land owned by John and Brenda Rose Galloway. Applicant Benevento Bituminous Products LLC by SEC and Associates Inc. dated 10/9/24. I offer the following comments. I have no objection to the waivers submitted. The plan shows the property lines and the line for the limit of the leased land. Major features are shown. There are no contour grades, stormwater drainage, or other engineering features to review. The intent is to show only the proposed asphalt enclosure over an existing impervious surface that is well within the boundaries. I believe enough information is provided on the site plan to be considered complete for this intent. Do we need to accept jurisdiction?
You do.
Okay.
I'm moving to accept jurisdiction.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
Oh, wait, yes.
Okay.
Wondering what we want to-
Okay, other things we have is, from departments, the Board of Selectmen, supports this request. And that was it. Okay. Any
So-
further discussion, questions?
Usual questions, is the site plan in compliances? Okay, so that gives them the opportunity to do this. And the other one was, is this in the aquifer protection zone? I know we had issues on Little River down
I
there.
think it is.
I want to say that it is.
I know that
It is.
it is, yeah,
It is,
okay.
yeah.
So are there any special considerations?
None.
I would point out that even if there wasn't an impervious surface under the asphalt, under the wrap,
There is an existing impervious surface under the pile.
there is. I know, even if there wasn't, the wrap itself is impervious, so it's not changing the impervious coverage, so.
And Robin had looked it up, and it was for residential aquifer.
And there's a note on the plan stating that it's in the aquifer.
Okay, good, yeah, so that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Any further questions from the board? Seeing none, shall we start on the waivers?
Yeah.
First waiver. Please accept this letter as a formal request to waive site plan review regulation Article 904-4A, requiring mandatory preliminary review. This is an application for an amended site plan proposal. The proposal is to simply add an enclosure over an existing recycled asphalt bin and to remove an existing concrete pad. Previously submitted and approved site plans support the existing operation. This proposal is intended to comply with all zoning and site plan regulations.
I'll move that a preliminary review is not required.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Okay. Okay, members of the board, please accept this letter as a formal request to waive site plan review regulations, Article 904.5, 8, 23, and 31, requiring site features be shown. This is an application, and the site features were 8, topographic map, 23, existing natural features, 31, contours existing and proposed. This is an application for an amended site plan proposal. The proposal to simply add an enclosure over an existing recycled asphalt bin and to remove an existing concrete pad. The area of the proposed work is within the existing plant operation and is a minor site change. Previously submitted and approved site plans support the existing operation. This proposal is intended to comply with all applicable zoning and site plan regulations.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The third one, this is, dear members of the board, please accept this letter as a formal request to waive subdivision review regulation article 904-5B and site plan fee schedule, requiring the establishment of a $5,000 engineering review account and to accept a $3,000 engineering review account instead. This is an application for an amended site plan proposal. The proposal is to simply add an enclosure over the existing recycled asphalt bin and to remove an existing concrete pad. Previously submitted and approved site plans support the existing operation. This proposal is intended to comply with all applicable zoning and site plan regulations. As such, my engineering review will be minimal.
Move that we waive the $2,000 of the engineering review account based on the advice of Dennis and Glenn.
Second.
Second by Robin. Any further discussion? All those, yes?
If we're gonna do this every time, why not just lower the price?
Well, because some projects will require a lot, like 266, you probably could spend twice that.
And anytime there's, for any standard site review, thank you, where there's new construction, and so there has to be a stormwater management plan done, then those fees really do cycle up. But in a case like this, where we're reviewing this, Dennis was, I think, he would never say it, but I think he was like, why are you giving this to me? There's nothing for me to look at, and you're making me look, so I'm gonna have to write a comment letter, and I'm gonna have to charge for it. But there was, in essence, very little reason for him to look at this.
I just don't see, setting a precedence.
I mean, usually we get the full 5,000, and on lots of projects, they actually have to put more money in.
Yeah.
But we're on a little run here where that isn't the case.
And often some stuff for residential, we reduce it to 1,500 or even less sometimes on some of the stuff that's involved.
Just a comment.
Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any public comment? Don't see any public comment? Okay.
We have
will
public
open
that wanna
public
comment on
We will
something.
close public
Not
comment.
this.
And how does the board wish to proceed? Are you ready?
I'm ready to make a motion to approve the application, dated October 8th, 2024, from tax map R3, lot 18, 1 Roadstone Drive, Kingston, New Hampshire, to, I'm just trying to figure out what they're asking to do.
Allowing them to cover their asphalt.
To allow us to cover their asphalt.
Did you not say that?
No, I do not want that to be reflected in the motion, even if that's.
You've been hanging around with me too much.
You could say just approve it as.
Approve it as requested, proposed, yeah.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All set?
Thank you.
Glenn, does that new site plan have to be recorded?
The last one was done in 2014.
I didn't envision that being recorded, because what we just basically did was charge them a public hearing for an expedited site review, and we don't record expedited site reviews.
Okay.
And so you just do a letter that
I'll do a letter that will go to the registry,
shows that that
and
is.
it will say that this plan exists in the planning board office. And that will get to attach to the plan that's recorded.
And Madam Chair, I have a question about the proposal you had earlier about eliminating the numbers. Is that something we can do because it's a regulation?
That we can do that anytime we want.
Anytime, so we could vote on a proposal now and,
Well,
or should we,
it
it have to be
has to be
posted?
a public hearing because it's a change to our
A
regulation.
regulation, okay, yeah.
But it doesn't, there's no time frame. It's not a town meeting issue, it's a planning board issue. So
Right, so it doesn't, yeah, we don't have to do it now. We
There's
do
no
it, do it,
pressure on us
yeah, do it
to do
after
it
the
right
first of the
now.
year, yeah.
since we have an ever-expanding list of zoning proposals.
I thought we weren't gonna do that again. How did we get here?
We're gonna stay quiet.
Okay. So,
Now we get to talk about zoning ordinances. We've been working on this for
several months now, and we finally have a public hearing tonight.
Could we, I'm sorry, this is rude, but could we talk about the historic district one since we have,
That's what I was going to do.
thank you.
You're welcome, anytime.
It just seems like we have a captive audience and we don't need to keep them
We don't want to keep them all night.
captive forever.
We don't want to keep us all night either.
That's right.
Thought I'd throw that in.
So, yes, indeed, we'll have a discussion tonight. And we have a total of 7 things to talk about this evening. And we're going to start by skipping ahead and with the historic district requests. And we have the height restriction, which is 1, and we'll be discussing height restriction otherwise, but at least we'll discuss the historic district portion of the height restriction. And then the other thing is zoning ordinance and regulations. They want to add the noise ordinance to historic district 1 and 2. That's under board business, so I'm bringing board business forward now.
Wait, doesn't the noise ordinance already apply?
It does not apply to the historic district.
Yeah, okay.
Serious?
James looking like, yeah.
That's the stupidest.
It applies in rural residential, single family residential, agricultural, and so they want to add historic district 1 and 2. So why don't we just sort of start with that no-brainer?
Yeah,
Would you guys want to talk to us, speak to us?
come on up, Ginny.
Why not?
Exactly.
Sitting here for a long
You have
time.
been sitting there for a long time.
Yes, yes. So the really, Virginia Morris, Vice Chair of the Historic District Commission. We've been doing what you've been doing, looking through and seeing if there's anything that we need to add, subtract, or during the warrant article time. And it came to our attention that the noise standards were quite specific and didn't include Historic District 1 or Historic District 2. And we believe that's just an oversight. Of course it is. Thank you, Ellie. But that's what we would like to have for a warrant article brought forth for the ballot.
Okay, would we entertain perhaps a motion to bring this to public hearing next month?
So, second.
It'll be public hearing on the 10th of December, because our meeting schedule is a little different next month. Okay, so we have a motion to bring this change forward to the public hearing next month. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Okay. First one done.
You are powerful.
Isn't that something?
You are
That may be the fewest words I've ever said in one of these meetings.
So the second thing is the height restrictions. I mean, this is the first thing we were going to discuss this evening, the height restrictions. And we've discussed this for the last several meetings. And we had talked about making the height restrictions consistent throughout. We've had many conversations with both the code enforcement officer, building inspector, and with the fire chief. So, with that, the proposed language for nearly all of these is the same. It says the maximum building height shall be 40 feet. This is measured from the lowest grade point elevation around the structure to the peak ridge of the roof. Any structure which exceeds this building height shall request a variance from the zoning board of adjustment, and other applicable requirements, including building codes and life safety codes, shall apply. So what the chief has told us is that if you go 40 feet, then that means your maximum height of windows is going to be 35 feet, which they can easily reach with their ladders to evacuate people from a fire.
Indeed, and that is correct. Also, with the promoting the 40 feet, what we are doing, or the intent is not only to promote development within town, but also to give a lot of leeway to the zoning board to make better determination in the event of variances. In lieu of having a grade average will be very restrictive for development, because then you have your median grade and all the calculations that have to be met. We will shrink that leeway that the zoning board of appeal will have in order to make a determination, so that if somebody comes with a higher elevation, they can assess the intent, which is pretty much to have fire rescue access, and be able to make a better determination for the general public. And that's why we selected to the lowest point, with that in mind, that it will go in front of the zoning board. And when it goes, now our zoning board is at a more comfortable pace with the understanding of what's going on around the structure, and they can make a better determination for the general public.
So what's missing from this is my conversations with the chief on Friday were that he talked about the 40 feet be occupied space, and that if something was going to be higher than that, it had to be unoccupied.
Yes,
And there
and
would be the ability to allow for something higher than that in certain circumstances.
It was the cupolas,
Yeah, it was a cupola thing.
like at a plaza, for example, in Carriage Town, those cupolas are not occupied.
Right.
So it's not like you have to get a ladder truck to get someone out of there. That was the point.
And the proposal that came forward for Liberty Commons also had the cupolas that were quite a ways up to add an attractive ambiance to the buildings. So do we need to put occupied in here? Or?
Yes.
I say yes.
Okay, so we need to insert the word occupied. So I think we should make an editorial comment to do that.
At that point, you're also including attics, so that anything up, an unoccupied attic could go up to what? What would be your new height restriction?
so, yeah, the height restriction is set forth to 40. With that being said, if you want to occupy space above 35 foot, which I will see in the plans, at that point, we will have to resort to the building code. The building code actually has a minimum of 40 for a type B construction. A type B is your regular wood construction. Anything that is more protected can go upwards of 180 feet. But then there are protection mechanisms that have to be in place that I have to assess in the plan review to make sure that people are complying with those mechanisms and they can occupy. I spoke with the fire chief about those things, and he said, yeah, I don't have a problem, because if we have the mechanism in place, we just need to be able to make sure that the measurements are in there so that people can evacuate safely the structure, which is what we want. The only reason why we're limited to 35 feet is because our ladder truck is at the maximum reach. It's not because the fire department doesn't have, there are no means to go above and beyond that. It's just that it is what we are restricted to per our fire trucks.
And this obviously would be changed if Kingston ever got a ladder truck.
Yeah.
And then we get the opportunity to do things differently.
And just to let you know that there's two reasons for building heights. One is fire safety, and the other is air and light. It has to do, we just had this law conference this past weekend, and that's one of the things that the attorneys brought up is a rationale for a building height ordinance is so that you don't block people's sunlight on abutters' sunlight or their views. And the reason I bring that up is because the way you've worded it, instead of using the state building code, which is I thought what we agreed on last time, you've given the lowest grade elevation around the structure to the peak ridge. Well, if you have a house, say, on Drew Lane that's on steep slope, looks out over the lake, and you come in and park above it, on a driveway, it goes downhill all the way to the lake. You have to go to the lake level, find the lowest level on that lot, and then you're talking about 150 feet to the peak of the roof, which is up in the upper area. Looking at the ordinance, that wouldn't be a minor adjustment at all.
But it works the same way if we were to do an average grade calculation, because if we have such a steep, that average grade is going to give us a point height, but at the same time it will restrict the board in making a decision, because that point height is actually going to be the maximum height that is allowable to be accessible. And as an example, we take a building that the lowest point is 40 feet, then you have two areas of the...
Wait, what do you mean lowest point is 40 feet?
Your lowest
grade
grade.
plane. We're talking
your
about grade
lowest
plane.
grade plane is 40 feet, elevation 40 feet. So we're talking about
Above
elevation.
sea level, you're talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
about sea level. So we got a 40-foot elevation, then we have two areas of that same structure at 34 feet, and then one area at 37 feet. That will give you a total elevation, an average elevation, based on that grade point average of 36 feet 3 inches. What will happen with that is now we are a foot above the threshold for fire rescue if we're talking that they are measuring to window sill height. So by us using the lowest grade might not be the accessible grade, because the fire truck can access the safety point at a higher grade, and now we give more leeway to the person that wants to do the development to have a higher building.
You're not using that. You're using the lowest grade.
Yes.
And so in this case, where the fire truck would come in and it's at elevation, say, 100 feet above sea level, and you're down at, and you've used your definition for grade plane as the lake, which is only 40 feet above sea level. You've just now taken 60 feet off the height of the house.
I understand that point, but the way I'm seeing it, or the way I want to portray it, is that we measure it to the lowest accessible point for the fire truck, not to the lowest accessible point to the actual
But that's not how
structure.
you've worded it. You've worded the lowest grade point elevation around the structure. So even if the fire truck couldn't get down to that lowest point, you're still using that lowest point.
Yes, which will come up to the board hearing. The whole idea also behind this is to get a better set of plans, detailing what we're looking at, which we were not getting. That will actually force the developer to render a set of plans that point to us the actual intent site-wise. And my determination will be to deny the permit and request that they go for a variance process, and at that point, being able to communicate to the variance, zoning board of appeal, my comments on what I saw in the plans, be able to further with comments and show them where it is that I'm standing and the details that I've seen, and then having better plans, which we were not getting, be able to make a more educated determination.
One of the issues I have is that you give them just the lowest point, presumably on the lot. And you could have a lot on the side of a hill that's 11 acres. And the basement of the house, the bottom of the basement of the house is too high according to your definition. So, because the lot slopes up. That's why the international business, the
IBC.
state building code has given a definition which includes the area around the structure out to 6 feet, or the lot line, whichever is closer. And so it's a much more realistic. You can get an average. It works a lot better than the lowest place on the lot as your base point. Because on a hilly lot, you're not gonna be able to build a one-story house.
We have to,
According-
that's why,
And so every house that comes to you that has a point on the lot that's lower than 40 feet from the ridge is gonna have to come to a variance, and that's ridiculous. Every single house in this town is gonna have to is gonna have to get a variance.
Aren't you talking about the exception to the rule as opposed to the rule?
No, this
You
is-
can't,
No, the exception to the, you're telling everybody they're gonna have to be out of, except for on a flat lot, everybody's gonna
I will tell you my reasoning behind that. We have several properties in towns that are built within a flood zone,
be building what?
built within a flood zone.
Flood zone, okay.
Yeah, so now, what we are forcing people actually to do is to render a plan that can make a better determination, and we can make more conscious decision at the time of approving a permit.
Okay, but you're talking about flood zones, not building heights. That's completely, you're talking about elevating building 10 feet to comply with the flood zone ordinance. That's different.
There you
That's
go.
not,
That's exactly what, the actual intent is to promote that level of providing the documents that we need in order to be able to better serve the population out there. And that's what I'm saying because of what I'm seeing in my day-to-day basis. I have seen several properties that have occupied spaces within the flood zone area, which is not allowed per state code.
Right.
Yet, they exist within town. So right now.
You need the information to do your job. You need the information on the plans. And I got it because I've seen your plans that you've received
Yeah.
that don't have any information at all. Like building height was missing and frontage was missing and things.
Yeah.
And I'm saying is that if you use the state definition, because that's what we had to use because the town doesn't have any definition of where you start to measure the height from right now. But in the ZBA, because the town didn't have a definition, we had to use the state building code definition. That provides a lot more information because it shows you anywhere within 6 feet of the house where the grades are. So you have more information to work from. And you're not concerned about some hole in the ground that's 40 feet from the property that's not going to affect fire truck access, that's going to bring their roof height. It's going to put them out of compliance with the roof height. See, I just think you're asking for a lot of trouble, and you're just saying that everybody's got to go to the ZBA if they want to build something that's more than 40 feet above the lowest point on their property.
I see.
Okay, so.
Can I just make sure that I'm understanding the differences here?
Yeah.
Just to be sure I understand.
Yeah.
So the Great Plain says that the average of the finished ground level, so whatever ground level is finished, not basement? Okay. And adjoining the building or at exterior walls. So the reference plane is representing the average of finished ground level adjoining the building, and then when the ground level slopes away, if you go 6 feet out, if it's lower, then you take the average between the building and the 6 feet away. Is that correct? Then that's grade plane, which is the state building code.
No, lowest point within the area between the building and the lot line or 6 feet.
Right.
So it's actually,
If the lot
if it
line's more than
slopes
6
away, it's the lowest point within
Yes.
6 feet of the
Within
house.
6 feet of the house.
Within,
Yeah.
actually, to the, per code, you have to slope a quarter inch for the first 10 feet. So it's a quarter inch going down, it has to be measured, which,
So you're using a lower number there.
Okay.
Anyway.
So
yeah.
here we're going 6 feet out and getting the lowest level between the building and the 6 feet out.
yeah,
Okay, that's and from there we measure the height up.
Exactly.
With the proposal we have in front of us, they're measuring the lowest grade point of the elevation around the structure. Is that still around the building structure itself, like the basement level where it hits the ground? Is that what we're talking?
Yes.
Okay.
How far away from the house?
No, nothing away,
Nothing
It
away.
doesn't say
nothing
that.
away.
He
So
says the lowest point.
the lowest point of the house,
No, the
No,
lowest
not
point
the
of
house,
the grade.
of the land around the house.
Your house wouldn't,
Right.
you'd be non-compliant, because if you go to the lowest point of your property line, the back of your house is probably more than 40 feet.
so when I'm looking at this though, it's saying measure from the lowest grade point elevation around the structure to the peak ridge of the roof, so it's not saying any distance away,
Correct.
it's just.
If we were a little bit more specific and said, hey, only go out 6
at the base-
feet
At the,
out from the
Or at
property,
structure,
of the structure,
Yeah.
and then measure 40 feet up.
If that 6 feet is lower, correct.
Right.
yeah, you can't just say lowest
lowest
grade
point.
If
around,
they want to
around it,
exceed
because
that building height, then they have to get a variance.
Correct.
Wouldn't you need that as wide as a fire truck to get down, because if you have 6 feet, and the fire truck can't fit, and it grades like this.
Well, the fire truck's gonna hit the front then.
Yeah, but that
There's a lot
won't
of
make any
places
difference,
fire trucks
because
can do.
that would mean that there would be like a 10-foot drop, right? But we're saying is, if you go out 6 feet and then measure the sill, that has to be 35 feet, which makes sense, and then anything above that is unoccupied. So, and that wouldn't happen
not the
anyways,
sill,
because,
it would be the peak of the roof.
So
That's
are you
what it says,
thinking
peak of the roof in
that
here.
the state building code is better?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's also what the people, if we're not compliant with the state building code, the state building code is going to supersede.
Right.
Well, actually, by us doing it the way that it was proposed in the literature here, we were more restrictive. We will need to submit a letter to the BCBR explaining that.
But you're not more restrictive, you're less restrictive.
At the way that it was proposed at 40 feet, we're more restrictive
No,
by
the-
having the lowest point close to the lowest level, rather than the average
Rather than
point.
using the average around,
Yeah.
that only works, if,
Yeah, that's not, that's,
yeah, that only, that only works if you set up a distance from the basement, from the foundation, because all you're saying is the surrounding area. And the lowest point would be, if you take the average, the state building code takes the average of all the grades around the house. Whereas if you take the lowest grade, you're gonna have the lowest ceiling height, the roof height. And you proposed the lowest grade instead of the average grade. And the case we had that came in up on Morning Dove,
No, I have the lowest.
he has the lowest, so if you have a house on a slope,
I understand what the lowest is. I guess.
okay. So you're measuring from there. So if it's like a basement with a walkout basement, perfect, on a slope, where the front door is at the top of the foundation level, and the bottom is out, 10 feet lower, the average would be only down 5 feet from the front door, and would be up 5 feet from the walkout basement. Your grade plane is down where it comes out, the walkout door comes out of the basement. So the state's letting you go up 45 feet from the average grade plane. 40 feet from the average grade plane, which would be 35 feet from the front door entry. Your proposal, you could only go up 40 feet from 10 feet down below the front door, so it'd only be 30 feet up. So I think, especially where you have sloped lots, you're really putting people in a bind, because that case we had with the, in Morning Dove, there were a lot of houses down there that were very close to the maximum level, and someone had to bring in fill so they could meet that grade plane average and meet that. If they didn't, it's, state is a little more lenient in terms of, but it's more accurate in terms of what the fire protection is and everything else. Plus, I really think it's much more specific. This one can be completely misinterpreted. And you're asking the ZBA to take that wording and come up with a maximum roof height, which may be 5 feet above the ground level.
Why don't you propose what change you want to make so we can move forward?
Okay, so I suggest the same thing that we voted, we agreed upon last time, which is to use the state building code as definition of grade, plane, level, and building height.
The only comment with regards to that is, he cited the 2015 edition of the code, we're in the 2021 edition of the code.
Okay.
Right.
Just make
We
sure
can change
that.
That was the one that was current at the time, and we hadn't adopted the 2021 version yet.
Let's give it a shot. We've had to change other regulations in the past, for example, ADUs, the septic system that we used to have to approve at the zoning board for years and years. So let's give it a shot and see what the quirks are and amend it. We can always change it and upgrade it again another year or
Give
two.
what a shot.
No, I believe, I will agree with Peter after reasoning with him.
Okay.
Using the state definition will actually open up the door to better development, and it will shrink the amount of reasoning that the zoning board will have to go through
And that's
in order
always a
to
good
make a
thing.
determination, and
And the
it's
other thing
good.
about using the state building code is that when builders come in from other places, they all know what the code is.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah,
the same, no
that's
matter
nice.
where they are, and it builds for consistency, and we're looking for
Yes.
consistency in the height, we're looking for consistency in other things, so putting
100%.
consistency with this,
Yeah,
I think would help.
I think that's
So-
the best argument right there.
So what
Yes.
you're talking about then is changing, let's just take a look at this, we're changing where it says this is measured from, and say this is measured from, and you take the grade plane
grade plane,
definition.
as defined by
The
state
20
building
the-
code.
the
And-
state
And you
building
don't have to give a year, it's whatever the state building code is.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Okay.
Just
Request
one,
of variance.
just one other thing, all the current houses are grandfathered, right?
Yes, I hope so. I said, I
Yes.
still want to live in mine.
Nobody, I'm definitely not gonna go to your house, knock down on your door. You gotta bring your roof down or bring it up all the way
I
up.
know I'm more than
It's
40
not gonna
feet.
happen.
Glorious that you guys.
He's not
are all
coming to my
going
house
South
either.
Florida. I don't know what that answer is.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're taking the state building code and we're now going to measure the grade from the state building code grade plane.
Definition.
Yes.
Okay.
So why aren't we just putting that in the zoning definition section? And in all of these other places,
And just say building heights and
Yeah,
is as defined in the definition section of this ordinance.
as
Perfect.
defined, yeah.
Cuts out
Yes.
half the word. More
And-
than half.
so we
The
don't
the
have
only
to
problem
have
is
another
then,
public hearing on this, correct?
We absolutely have to have
Okay.
oh, yeah.
So we'll bring this change to the public hearing.
on December 10th.
Do we have a motion to take the change and bring it to public hearing on December 11th?
So moved.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Do we need a motion for it?
Yeah.
I move
How
it.
do you feel about it?
Our regulations talk, I know there's nothing for the historic district in the ordinances, but our regulations discuss this. Under design considerations, Article 1201. And so what we're doing is talking about specific design considerations, not safety necessarily, we're talking about
Aesthetics.
the setting and the image of the neighborhood. And ours says, new construction must be in harmony and compatible with the height and width of adjacent and/or surrounding buildings. The true height of a new building, the actual point in space, this is this definition, where a building's roof line should naturally terminate, is calculated by generally accepted architectural design practices, shall not be more than 10% higher than the average height of adjacent structures or those that share the streetscape and in no instance will be greater than 35 feet. So Maddie and I were just whispering here with our light off. If 40 feet turns out to be the acceptable height, you still could put into the ordinance the 10% higher than surrounding buildings. So
For the
that-
historic
for the excuse me, for the historic district. So that would be a minor change. I'm not sure. But
Indoor-
Glenn was just talking about putting it in the definition there as opposed to.
He's just putting grade
separating it.
plane where you measure it from.
Yes.
And building height.
Okay.
And building it.
So if the code has the 40 feet, but you added this 10% higher than the average height adjacent, or in no instance will be greater than 40 feet. So it would be consistent with.
Well, that's
the-
already in your regulations, right? So all you need to do is change your regulation to 40 feet and leave the rest.
Right.
Yes.
That's all you have to do.
You can use
I know, but don't you want to put us in the ordinance? And so in the ordinance, I would like to see those conditions, is what I'm trying to
The
say.
only,
So,
the
yeah,
only,
so
the only
it-
thing which
Here's
is
my
like,
concern with that is, that's saying it can be 10% higher in the historic district, then we're saying it can be anywhere else in town.
Right,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, no, you can't.
And
So we can't do
also,
that.
it will open the door for the, we will require a building code review board review of the actual wording and setting of that ordinance for the historic district. And because the state has precedence over the matter, and it might not be granted approval.
Well, I don't think you have to put that in there, because if you said it's 35 feet now, and 10% would be 3.5 feet, so if you limit it to 40 feet, you're good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And remove that 10% phrase.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Good thinking, Ben.
So we'd have to be sure we made our language in the regulations consistent with.
Correct.
And you would put this wording that we're just discussing
Yeah.
into the ordinance. So
It
we're
would be a
both
zoning
in the
ordinance.
ordinance, then would we need it in the regulations? Maybe
You,
we can
you
leave
should
it,
be,
yeah.
you should be
Yeah,
consistent in the regulations.
But take out the 10%, because 10% above 40 feet is 4 feet, so.
I'm just, I don't know what the other heights of houses are in the historic district right now.
Right. It seems to me
I
that,
suspect many of them are pretty high.
yeah, it seems to me that a number of them
Yeah, any Victorian
far exceed.
or the Sanborn Seminary and, you know.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
but this is occupied
Well,
space
then why wouldn't they have put that in to match when they first wrote this?
because they weren't thinking that way.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe it was the fire.
Yeah, that's what
hazard
it
at
was.
the time.
That's what it was. They looked at it from a safety aspect, not an architectural aspect.
So we can fix that.
Okay, so, motion to make the change to all the number one,
So moved.
to bring it to public hearing on the 11th.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Done. We are now on to.
Thank you, everyone.
You're not in Virginia.
And
Number
Lynn,
two.
before you do that, I'm gonna excuse myself in favor of being a good parent. So,
How's she doing?
not great. Thank you. Yeah, I can.
Okay, we're moving forward to to number 2, Article 106, District for Age-Restricted Housing, and Article 208, Age-Restricted Housing, Separation between Age-Restricted Housing Dwelling Units. And all we have done there is to put a minimum of 40 feet separation between the buildings. It currently is 60 feet, and we're changing it to 40 feet. Do we have any further discussion on this? We had quite a bit of our last meeting. Yeah. If not, do we have a motion?
Hey, I'll move that we adopt the proposed language. Sorry, we're at a hearing, so we wanted to move it to warrant.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we'd move the proposed language to the warrant for section 106.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I'm a nay.
Okay.
Oh, hang on, are we on
106.
We just
Yeah.
did,
107, sorry, because 106 was the last of the building height ones.
It started here on my page.
Oh, that's, wait a second, that's industrial zone GH.
The motion
Okay, wait, I got
has to be
one.
that
I
was
got
on
one.
Page
Because
five,
I made notes on this one.
Yeah, that's,
the top of page.
here we go, page 10, Article 106, age restricted housing, yeah,
Yeah.
it's the right article, but I was looking at
It's on
that.
page 4.
Four, yeah.
So we have, 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor and 1,
Nay.
one nay.
So number 2?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Right, so, yeah, so Peter's motion is what would be found on the top of page 5.
Correct.
Oh, made by, yeah, to move the articles pertaining to the building height. And we did
No,
that.
not that one. On
Oh,
page-
sorry.
On page 5, top of
Yeah,
page
motion,
5.
move the article, age restricted housing, proposed change in the separation between age restricted dwelling units from 60 to 40 feet to the 2025 warrant.
Who seconded that?
Ellie seconded it, and it was 4-1. 4-1-0. Okay, Article 3, which is the commercial zone, and we're adding the language for multifamily dwellings and development and the number of units, and we're just adding the language when a multifamily development has a mixture of housing types, duplex units may also be considered as multifamily structures. Any further discussion on that? We have a motion. Second? Okay, Ellie and Rob. No further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
And we're done. Okay, home occupation for childcare, so we needed to change the language in that to match the new state law. And we have added in private homes in which more than 6 preschool-age children and 3 part-time school-age children, not counting the children over 9 years of age residing in the home, are provided care. And that's up from 3 of their own, 3 extra, not including the owner's children. Okay, do we have a second? Second. Okay, Kelly, Rob. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Next one is building and building lots, and we've added in the definition of recreational vehicles and the definition of recreational vehicles. We put the definition into the, that's the second one. So the first one is just Article 301, buildings and building lots, and we've added to, it shall be unlawful to park any occupied travel trailer or recreational vehicle within the limits of the town of Kingston for more than 3 days without first obtaining a permit. Permits issued for more than one 90-day period in the calendar year and is not renewable. No more than 1 travel trailer or recreational vehicle should be parked in a building lot. Any discussion? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'll move move Article 301, Section 301.9 to the 2025 warrant. Second.
That's Peter and Ben. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Then we have a definition of a recreational vehicle, which is being added to the preamble 2, which is our definitions. And recreational vehicles, proposed language is a recreational vehicle means any of the following vehicles: motorhome or van, which is portable, temporary housing, a temporary dwelling to be used for travel, recreation, and vacation, constructed as an integral part of a self-propelled vehicle. Pickup camper, which is a structure designed to be mounted on a truck chassis for use as a temporary dwelling for travel, recreation, and vacation. 3, recreational trailer, which is a vehicular portable structure built on a single chassis. 400 square feet or less when measured at the largest exterior horizontal projections, calculated by taking the measurements of the exterior of the recreational trailer, including all siding, corner trim, molding, storage space, and area enclosed by windows, but not the roof overhang. It shall be designed primarily not for use as a permanent dwelling, but as a temporary dwelling for recreational, camping, travel, or seasonal use. Tent trailer, which is a canvas or synthetic fiber folding structure mounted on wheels and designed for travel, recreation, and vacation purposes. Any
We
further-
had to pick the one that Huddy wrote was the longest.
Yeah.
More
So-
paper.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So, do we have any further discussion on that? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I'll move the article preamble to definitions to add the definition of recreational vehicles to the 2025 warrant ballot.
Second.
Okay, Peter and Beth, do we, all those in favor? Okay. Well, the rules and regulations for the driveway permits. So, we're adding to the regulation for the driveway permit because the process has changed. So it says driveway permit application available from the planning board or town offices shall be submitted at the permitting office for submission to the planning board designee for review and processing. An application fee is set by the select board, shall be paid once the permit has been reviewed and approved prior to any work being done.
And this process has changed.
Yes.
And the process has changed from that?
Yeah.
So this is not the same process?
No,
Okay.
it's the online permitting process. All right, now now it's online.
Well, it's still submitted.
Yeah, but it's not to the
Do you want
select.
to add the word online?
Yeah, through the online permitting portal, yeah.
What if
Can't they also
submit it?
Submit it.
We want to encourage them to go to the portal and not.
You want to encourage it, but you can't deny a permit because it wasn't submitted online.
We wouldn't deny it. What we're doing is helping the general public on getting through the process and educating them on the ease of doing it online.
Oh, yeah, I agree that it should be done online, but we can't
We don't
make
deny,
a
no, we don't
regulation.
deny it. Either way, if they come and submit the application, it goes through the online portal.
Right.
We request some sort of
Yeah,
communication
somebody puts it
method so that they are in tune with the process. That way they are getting feedback all the step of the way through the application process.
But we should have it online. It doesn't mean it's gonna get denied if it's not.
Yes.
Right, I just think as a regulation, we can't force the applicant, we can put it online from a paper application if they can't do it.
I guess where I'm going with this, Peter, if we don't start putting online here, you know what I'm saying? We want them to think that
It's
it's going
pro-
online, it's not,
Oh, I see what you're
you know,
saying,
if
yeah.
someone can't fill it out online, we're gonna help them do
We're
it.
gonna help you, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll help you make the application,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes, and we're there for that, but we do, it is beneficial to the extent of.
Oh, I agree
record
100%, yeah.
To be able to guide the public when they come in contact with us to the online permitting portal.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah,
I just worry when people see a regulation that says they have to do it a certain
Yeah.
way.
Don't worry, they'll call and start screaming.
Yeah. The only thing is that by putting in the regulations that say it's on
Yeah.
paper, you will get people coming in to bring the paper.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Don't want to tie your hands if the system goes down.
So Robin just reviewed this,
Yes.
and it appears that even the first section is no longer, so the current language is no longer happening at all. So we got a proposed language, prior to construction, reconstruction, or paving of any driveway in the town of Kingston, a town of Kingston driveway permit application available from the planning board or town offices should be submitted online
Yeah.
at the permitting office for submission to the planning board designee for review and
Or
process.
to the permitting office. I would say it should be submitted online to the permitting office.
Yeah.
Change the preposition there.
Okay.
We will have to have that on the December 2nd hearing.
That, we need that for December, well,
The thing with this, it's a regulation.
it's a
so we can
regulation
change
Yeah.
it
anytime.
Yeah.
But why don't we look at this? and-
But this is
This is a hearing for it.
This is a substantive change, so tonight's public hearing
Correct.
we can't change this.
Correct.
We have to have another public hearing. So
Yes.
why don't we look at this and make sure it's what we want,
Right.
and we'll come back with it to the board.
So here's my thought. Let's look at this, make sure you know what it wants, what you want. Bring it to our meeting on December 3rd. And then we'll vote on it at our public hearing on the 10th.
You have time to notice that?
Well, we need, 10 days.
Yeah. You notice it
We
We
can
have
put
it.
on- we
the end of
can put
November,
online.
this week, right? You're gonna be noticing everything.
Oh, zoning ones still have to go to the
I
paper.
think Peter just found out.
No, yeah, I was just gonna bring that up, Article 6,
Hold on, let's get this done first.
yeah, that they don't have to do it anymore. I just confirmed that with the law of conference.
If we can just put on.
It's 675-7.
Yeah, so we can just put it online, we don't have to publish, so let's,
That's fine, we have plenty of time to do it, if we don't have to use it.
so, but my feeling is let's get this settled at the first meeting in December, so we can vote for it on it with everything else at the second meeting in December.
Yeah, there is a 14-day requirement, but the December 10th is well outside
It's
that.
14 days beyond today.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we'll make that change, and we don't need to vote on that. Current language in number 7, driveways shall
Well,
enter.
this is all one thing,
Oh, it is? Okay.
So,
All right, yeah, so we're okay with
and
the classified.
there's no change to that second.
Okay.
so somebody can define better public road, what is that?
A class,
Class
a
5
4, 3, or
That's
1.
what the state defines it.
lower number than 5, 5 or lower.
Right,
Okay.
that really just means a class 5, we could say, it could say shall enter a class 1 through 5.
Let's do that.
State road.
This is how the state does it, that's why.
Oh, they say, or better public
That's
road?
how they do it.
Yeah, because you can't use one, because
All-
that's interstate.
What it's saying is it has to be one of the enumerated types of roads that state law
Okay.
allows.
All right,
You can't, what they're talking about is you can't build another class 6.
Right, and so it's class 1 through 5.
Okay, and then we also have the regulation on the 1.5 dwelling, parking spots per dwelling unit. Should we vote on, we need to vote on that, that's the last one. So, we're updating our parking regulations, so it's going from 2, parking spots per dwelling unit to 1.5,
And this is
for
to comply
studios
with
and
state
1 bedroom
law.
to match state law.
Yeah.
Okay? Do we have a motion for that?
Yeah, I'll move that we amend Article 904, site plan review regulations. I'll just move that we amend the 904 site plan review regulations as stated in the article here. 1.5 per dwelling unit.
Okay, so, do you have a second? You have a second?
discussion.
Okay.
How did they develop, how did they come up with 1.5?
It's the state did.
The state, instead they
What-
made it a state law.
So then if you've got, 2 units, then you can have a maximum of 3.
3 cars, okay, I see what you're saying. But it says here studio or 1 bedroom.
Mm-hmm. And it's a state regulation to encourage more housing by reducing the number of parking spaces.
Can we stop enabling the state?
Try.
Okay, just by,
The money a little bit, you know?
So we have a motion, and we have a second. Are we going to defy state law, or are we going to vote to approve this?
I'm going to vote to approve.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I don't have a choice.
that's where I'm at.
Okay, so 401 on that one.
401?
Yeah. So, what we've got here is we have the driveway permit regulations coming back to the meeting on December 2nd, and coming back to we have the height restrictions coming to our meeting on the 10th. All righty. Oh, it's 9 o'clock, we're moving along. Do we have a motion to accept the October 1st minutes?
Yeah, hang a second. I've got one change on that one. A couple of them. On line 46, where it says the person sent a letter in. She was from Ellison Avenue. I think we should note that that's East Hampstead, Ellison Avenue, East Hampstead, because otherwise it's assumed it's a Kingston resident, and it wasn't.
Good point.
So just add East Hampstead after Ellison Avenue. Line 267-8, I noticed that the widening project of 125 was celebrating its 37th year on the 10-year plan, not of the 10-year plan, so just changing on to, of to on. Because the 10-year plan's been around a lot longer than that, but that project's been going for 10 years, 37 years. And then line 270, change 26-27 fiscal year just to 2026 fiscal year.
So do you have a motion to accept the minutes as
Amended.
corrected? Amended.
I'll move that we accept them as amended.
All those in favor?
Right.
I'm abstaining.
And one abstention. Okay, the minutes of October 15th. Do we have any errors or omissions or changes anyone wants to make?
I'll move that we accept them as written.
All those in favor?
All right.
There you go. All righty. Now we have the CIP plan.
Yes.
This,
Do you want to give any explanation for anybody?
this has been prepared, it was reviewed by this CIP committee in October. The changes that they asked me to make, I made. We expanded the description of revenue sources to include impact fee revenue that had never shown there before. And that's what has occurred.
That was it, yeah.
Remembering that this is an advisory document prepared for this Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee.
And there were two members of the Budget Committee there, and so the Budget Committee did get the CIP. And even though you told them that it wasn't official until we met tonight and approved it, they at least have the numbers and had the working document. They have all the submittals and all the information. They had it a few weeks ago when we did the meetings.
Okay. So we need a motion. Do we have any further discussion about the plan? Seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the plan?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have correspondence.
Does it make a difference if we accept it?
I don't know. Does it make a difference if we accept or adopt?
I don't, I think it's,
Accepted it, we had it,
You've done the same thing.
That's fine, because you told me to say adopt.
Yes.
All right, we have,
In the document itself, it says the Kingston Planning Board endorsed this capital improvement program by unanimous vote at their meeting of tonight, so it doesn't matter what language you use.
well, I see it has adopted a master plan, but that's not this.
Today's the 19th, is that correct?
19th.
Okay.
4 hours.
Not for long.
okay, so we have some correspondence. We have an email from Chief Graham Pellerin, Fire Chief Graham Pellerin. Good evening, I received a call from a resident over the weekend who is concerned regarding the availability of usage of gas pumps at this location, which is Mr. Mike's gas station, after hours. Apparently, they leave the pumps on, and if using a credit card, you can fuel up any time. Not sure if this is a condition of the site plan or not, just passing along the concern. Well, the site plan says they have to close at 10, if I remember correctly. So that would assume that means shut off the pumps.
Doesn't necessarily mean that.
Well, it does, because you're conducting business after hours. Because they're taking, that's the purpose. I mean, that's the thing. You're conducting business. An automat, for example, a laundry that you would go in and put your coins in, there's nobody there, they're open for business. So I would think the bigger issue, and that Graham probably can address independently, and that is, what kind of idiot would let the people pump gas without an attendant there to initiate the fire suppression system? And so I would say it's probably a violation of some kind of state law,
Well, it's definitely a violation of our site plan.
but it is definitely a violation. You can't sell gas
If you're not open.
after hours, yeah, if you're not open, so, I mean, the act of selling gas is running business hours beyond
It's
this.
a gas station.
Yeah,
And their hours of operation cease at 10.
Correct.
So does Glenn right over?
so,
Does
Well,
anybody
it's-
get any
it's-
gas
They're
from
not
there
according to
after
their
that?
site plan, is that something that the selectmen have to?
Yes.
It's a code enforcement.
code enforcement, I would think that,
So we'll refer it to the select board.
yeah,
You know what, the world is changing, and pumping gas with no one in attendance is part of that change.
is it?
I think so.
I would tend to think that there's probably some state laws that are being violated. Nonetheless,
And I guess
if you had it on the site plan saying that you were gonna have unattended gas pumping, that would have been reviewed, but,
And I would tend to agree with you if the gas station was located in a commercial zone, but that gas station is located in a single-family zone.
The one issue that we could generate some concern is an unattended gas pump could be dropped on the ground and pour out gasoline all over the place. That's where
Yeah.
enforcement comes in, not so much the self-serve with a credit card. That's my opinion. But
this
that's
is-
where
this
the
is- This
safety
is a
issue.
non-conforming use in a residential zone.
yeah.
It's not the same as the Shell station on 125.
And I
even then,
agree with
I would
Ellie as
say
far
that
as,
they-
it's a safety issue.
Yeah, I would say that they probably have to have, there's some regulations that say they have to have an attendant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on that note, the scary part is a safety issue, as Lynn has said, because I was at 125, the Shell gas station, and that's why he was putting gas. The connector junction area
Yeah.
was leaking. I thought it was water. It was pumping like if it
spewing.
was a hose. And I put my hand, I smelled it, I said, oh, this is gas. So if that was to happen in the middle of the night with nobody watching, and nowadays, although you have sign that says turn off your vehicle, people might not turn it off.
Especially nobody there to.
Yeah, we have a different problem coming in, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only concern that
I'll bring
safety.
it up at the board.
I
And
would-
you
I
got
would-
to write the letter.
I will, I know, I already put it on my list, so tomorrow's going out.
Okay.
Yeah, my recommendation is to just have Pedro ask them if they forgot to turn their pumps off, if this isn't, if they have a sign saying, gas anytime.
Thanks.
But,
That's the only thing is, I can request that they have to provide a site plan review if they want to go over extended hour, but they have to have a supervised. What I don't, so as a code, from the code enforcement standpoint, is I cannot condemn an issue that hasn't happened, meaning the safety condition. And as you said, we don't know if it's a daily routine that they have, if it was something of a particular case that happened, but in the meantime, we have to definitely send a letter saying that it has been brought to our attention that this has occurred. And if it is the common practices, they have to prove to us that they have come in front of the planning board with a new site plan review.
That makes sense.
Else,
that makes,
And I don't want to tell you how to do your job,
you can.
but.
That's what I'm here
I would
for.
talk to Graham and find out who the person was, and I'd find out if this is a common occurrence, is it something that happened once?
I think I like Pedro's way better. I mean,
I get gas there after,
10 o'clock.
After 10?
all the time,
really?
All the
Really do.
all the time.
You
My
pay
wife comes home
55
with an
cents
empty
more a
tank
gallon?
every day, and she doesn't like to fill her gas, so I will take the car down at 11 o'clock at night, and I will fill that car up, and I
they're
love it.
not.
So,
guilty too?
It's also, I was just looking, the state of New Hampshire has much more stringent requirements for unattended pumping, so somebody should probably check if they met those.
Yeah,
I will,
Way to go, Adam.
I can't believe you pay 55 cents a gallon more than Hampstead.
Only because, like I said, my wife, my daughters, they gotta leave early, or they're headed someplace, they got an empty tank, and it's right there, and
What a good
there are
dad
no
you
lights.
are.
I'm sorry that I'm gonna make it so much more inconvenient for you.
Moving along.
one
I
other
think we
thing,
resolved.
I would just have you guys check, because the the operation hours for that place was designed by the zoning board of adjustments.
Yes, it was. And Ben and I were part of that, and they're very, very clear what the hours of operation are. There's no doubt about it.
No,
Yeah.
it was certainly to accommodate the residents.
Because there were problems there in the past, which is what.
Okay, we have an escrow release acknowledgement. So we have Spiro 125 LLC, we approved last week, and they would like the remainder of their fees returned. They're withholding an escrow. So we need a motion to return anything that's not been billed, hasn't been billed yet? I mean, hasn't been.
No, you need to go through that, and then you need to let me ask a question. Okay.
I'm just saying, I'm assuming that the motion would be to return any money that has not, make certain that all the bills are paid and return the balance. Okay. And Glenn?
So I didn't realize that we're always requiring the planning board to act on these, but Travis McConnell has asked for his back as well.
He needs to do a formal request to us.
He's done an email
Okay, you need to
request.
send it to me. and
Well, I can give it to you on Thursday, or you can go on my computer and get it if you want.
No, we'll
But
do it
I'll get it to you.
But then we can't do it till the next meeting.
Really?
And which one was he?
Sorry, Glenn.
From Patriot Properties.
The Patriot Properties? Oh,
The condo review we did a year ago.
oh.
Yeah, that was the one that Pedro's came on
Yeah.
right after the,
One of the first things that you probably
it did.
saw. Yeah.
And that was the one that had the conditions, and you didn't even know where because we didn't have an online system, you didn't know there were conditions of approval, and they're actually not in compliance, so. So,
Oh, they're not
they're
in
not.
compliance right now?
No, they've still got a big,
He did, in
If
case
they're not in
that,
compliance,
that
then there's
back
nowhere.
there, and he removed a couple of things out of there, but I don't know to what extent.
well, the big dumpster is still unenclosed,
In the back, all the way?
the back.
All right then, but the motion would be to return the escrow money for Spiro 125 LLC. Please, get back on track.
As she brings us back.
And as long as everybody's gotten his or her bills in,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we have a motion on the floor, do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have a letter from Dare Motors. To whom it may concern, we're writing this letter to inform you that Dare Motors, Inc., 15 Route 125, is moving to a new address, 6 Route 125, currently Maroons Auto, upon the town, then the state's approval. We will be following the existing town site plans approvals of the new location. Worth noting that the new address, currently Maroons Auto, is shutting down the dealership. You may find a copy of they've attached the lease.
Certainly, are they also closing their 15, the dealership at the house?
Doesn't say, it just says they're moving, they've not said.
Moving, yeah.
It's a residential property, and they're gonna use it just as a residence.
Yeah, okay, that's so that would be an improvement.
It will, to a site that's already approved.
Approved for that use, yeah.
For automotive sales and inspection, so.
Yeah.
So the next question is, does this need any further action?
If they're fine.
Right, if the site plan exists, I think that carries over with, they just need occupancy permit.
We looked at it and they've agreed that
no,
they
because
will
they're leasing.
comply with that site plan review.
Right, so all they need is an occupancy permit.
Yep.
Okay.
So no further action on
No
our
further
part.
action is required. Okey-doke. Is there any other business that may legally come before the board? Yes, Ellie?
One quick comment, the Lone Tree meeting has been postponed till December 2nd. There was an illness in the family of one of the attorneys, so that's still in progress. He got his Columbus Day break, and we're now rescheduled for December 2nd for public meeting at 5:30.
It's a public meeting?
It is a public meeting.
So, and that's obviously not on a new site plan, right, because that would be coming here, so that must be something.
Yeah, he's gonna explain why he hasn't done anything, and then he's gonna ask, but I think he's just gonna ask us what we want, but we've sent many letters outlining what we need, so.
Are they in compliance now?
Of course not.
Yeah, okay.
So the other thing is, Robin has supplied us with our public hearing meeting calendar for next year. And just so you all know, Robin accomplished something last week that is absolutely remarkable. She managed to scan all the decisions and all the paperwork that needed to be scanned up to the property files all the way through 2023.
Good job.
Did you do 2024?
I did from when I started through current.
Through current, so up to today.
Wow, good
It's all done, and that's quite an accomplishment. So,
It is.
I want to thank you for
Thank
that,
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
because it's
I haven't
important that that
uploaded
stuff
them
goes
to
in.
the town website, but I have it all electronic, so just gotta go.
Anything that should be in the property file is in the
But
property
thank
file,
her for
everything
that,
else is in the
to
private files.
Vote for her position.
Yes, we need a full time, we need you.
Now, so I have two questions. Is the selectman putting in a warrant article for Robin's position?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. And
Don't
who is
scare me
going to
like
put in the warrant article for the master plan? Is that also a selectman thing?
I wasn't planning on it. Because it's coming out of the planning board. It's in the budget, right? Why do we have?
Oh, it's in the budget?
Well, it's requested, and that was one of the things that came up in the CIP, was that the budget committee members thought that it should go.
In the budget.
It should be in the budget, and it should be, in my opinion, spread over 2 years.
Okay.
I don't think we should put the whole,
I don't think we can do the whole thing in a year.
I agree with you. That's why I think it should be split up.
And that was the part we discussed the risk on, is that if it gets approved, the first part, it gets approved, and then the second year, it gets disapproved, we have basically nothing, yes.
But I believe we put it in the budget.
Okay, thank you,
But
then we don't need
I
a
don't
warrant
know
article.
whether it got split up. I think the $56,000 amount is in there. Now, I'll give Stacy a call tomorrow and check
Okay.
on that, because it's more likely to pass the budget committee if it's split into 2 pieces.
And that's fine. I can't imagine we could do it all in a year anyway.
Nope, I don't think you can.
Okay, we're good then. Is there any other business to come before the board? Seeing none, we are adjourned at
Let's all gas our cars.
9:17.
Yeah, well,
Thank you, Adam.
Hot one up, buzz.